Hello, dear students. Welcome back to the second part of the chapter 3 Horticulture Methods of Plant Propagation. In the first part, we have studied about the sexual propagation or the seed propagation. Now, in this part, we are going to study the artificial vegetative propagation. Now, what do you mean by artificial vegetative propagation? So, as we all know, the vegetative propagation is a type of propagation in which the vegetative parts, such as the roots, stem, and the leaves, they are utilized in the process of reproduction. Now, this vegetative propagation it can occur by two ways. First is the natural vegetative propagation, and the second one is the artificial vegetative propagation. Now, the natural vegetative propagation it occurs naturally in the nature. It may occur with the help of different structures which are produced by the plants, for example tubers, bulbs, stolons, runners, etc. Whereas the artificial vegetative propagation it also involves the vegetative parts, but now in this case there is interference of the human. So with the help of human activity, this type of propagation it can be achieved, and thus it is referred as artificial vegetative propagation. Now, the artificial vegetative propagation it is the process of growing plants by applying some of the artificial techniques such as the layering, grafting, cutting, budding, etc. These methods they are more beneficial as it helps to boost the quality, the yield, the disease resistance, and thereby the plant products. Thus, this method is very economical. So, tissue culture it is also one of the methods of artificial propagation in plants. In the tissue culture specifically, tissue it is grown in an environment which comprises all the required nutrients, hormones, light, and so on, which are needed for the proper plant growth and development. This method it helps the plant to grow healthy, perfect replica of the original plant in a very short period of time. Now, along with tissue culture, there are different methods of artificial vegetative propagation, such as cutting, layering, grafting, and budding, which we are going to study in detail one by one. So, starting with the first type, which is referred as cuttings. So, cutting it is generally a part of plant which may be a stem, or which may be a part of stem or a leaf or a root. It is generally cut off from the mother plant, and it is planted at some other place. So, such method is called as cutting. So, here in the picture you can see sorry, in the picture you can see this is the mother plant, and what is done. So this here it is here there is a branch which has some birds present on it. Just we have to cut this branch from the mother plant, and we have to plant this branch somewhere else or in some other pot. What will happen? The birds which are present they will start growing. The birds which are placed under the soil they will start producing roots, and the apical meristem it will start producing the shoot. Thus a new plant it can be obtained from the mother plant or the branch of the mother plant. Such a process is called as the cutting. Now these cuttings they are very common methods of uh, artificial vegetative propagation. Now, many a times these cuttings they can also be treated with the help of hormones, which will help to induce the roots. Plants such as the roses, hibiscus, sugar canes, they are usually cultivated with the help of this method. Then these cuttings they may be grouped in three categories, such as the stem cuttings, leaf cuttings, and the root cuttings. So the method in which stem is used as cutting is called as the stem cutting, and it usually includes the hardwood, semi hardwood, and the softwood cuttings. The second is the leaf cutting. The leaf cutting includes the leaf blade cutting, leaf vein cutting, leaf bud cutting, as well as the leaf edge cutting. So out of these, either the bud of the leaf, the edge of the leaf, the vein of the leaf, or the blade of entire blade of the leaf can be utilized as a cutting. The third category is the root cutting, wherein the part of root is cut and it is sewn at some other place. Popular examples of cuttings are the grapes, cocoa, rosa, duranta, carnations, bougainvillea, hibiscus, sugarcane, etc. So this is a simple method where we just have to cut a branch from the mother plant, in case of stem, root, as or the leaf. We have to just cut that part and we have to sew it at some other place. So such a method is called as the cuttings. The second important method in artificial vegetative propagation is layering. So layering, it means the propagation of plant above the ground surface or above the stems or the roots. They are grown on the stems, you can say, while the parent plant is still attached. And later on, when the roots they are initiated, it can be detached from the mother plant or the parent plant, and then it can be grown as an independent plant. Now layering, it is a method which is usually utilized by horticulturists to propagate desirable plants. So naturally, layering occurs when a branch touches the ground, whereupon it produces some adventitious roots. Then at a later stage, the connection between the parent plant and the new plant, it is cut off and it results into a new plant. Now this method, it involves the bending of plant branches or stems so that they touch the ground, and wherever they touch the ground, there it will start producing the adventitious roots, and thus a new plant it can be grown. Later on, the plant it is detached from the mother plant or the parent plant. Now this part which is touching the ground and later on which is covered by the soil, it forms the new roots, and this part is now called as layer, and hence the method is called as the layering. Now this technique, it other words, or in other technique, the layering it can also be done in the air, and hence it is also called as air layering. Now in case of air layering, the roots, instead of in growing in the soil, they are grown on the stems or the branches of the plants, and thus the formation of roots is in the air, and thus the layering type of layering is called as the air layering. Now these roots or newly developed roots, when they where the branches they are scrapped and the branches they are removed from the tree, and they are again planted as an individual plant. Now there are different types of layering, out of which the first type is the mound layering, or it is also called as the stool layering. So in this method, first of all, let's see this picture. So this is the simple type of layering where a plant, uh, a branch of a plant, it is just bent towards the soil, and wherever it touches the ground, it starts producing new roots. Now once the roots they have been developed, this grows as a new individual plant, and we can just cut it off from here, from the, or detach it from the mother plant, thus a new plant it will be grown. So this technique is called as the simple layering, whereas the second method is called as the mound layering or the stool layering. In this method, the lower stem branches they are generally defoliated. So whatever branches which are present at the base of the stem, usually they are defoliated, means the leaves they are removed, and then injury is given to the defoliated part. So there is a injury which is made in the part from where we have removed the leaves, in the form of a oblique cut. So oblique cut is given, or a v-shaped cut, or even the removal of ring of a bark, which is also called as ringing, is done in that part. Now this part it is specifically bent towards the ground, and then it is covered with the help of moist soil such that it tips remains above the soil surface. So the tip of the branch, it should remain above the soil surface, but the base of that stem, it is covered with the help of moist soil, and thus this branch is now called as the layer. Again, you can see after few days what will happen, whatever the portion it was covered with the help of moist soil, it will start bearing the adventitious roots, and once the plant it is rooted, it can grow, or it can be cut off from the mother plant, and it can be grown as an individual plant. So such method it is usually implemented in jasmine, strawberry, grapevine, and the cherry plants. Then the next important method of layering is called as the air layering or the Gutti method. So this technique it is mostly adopted in plants which do not possess branches near the ground. Now, stool grafting, what we have studied, it is usually carried out in the plants in which the lower branches they are present. But now, what about the plants which do not bear the branches at the base or near the ground? So for such plants the air layering is a good option. Now this air layering it is usually done in the monsoon rains or the monsoon season. What is done, you can see in the picture. So a specific branch it is selected for air layering. After the selection of the branch, a ring of bark it is removed around 2 to 6 centimeters patch. So just remove the outermost layer which is the bark of the branch. Then once the bark is removed, it is covered with the help of moist grazing clay, which includes two parts of clay, one part of cow dung, and finely cut hay or the moss, and it is sprinkled with water. Along with this, a rooting hormone such as IAA, that is indole acetic acid, or IBA, that is indole butyric acid, it can also be applied to this part. Finally, once the clay is wrapped at the part, it is to be covered with the help of polythene sheet, which will help to retain the moisture. Within a few weeks, what will happen, the adventitious roots they will begin to arise or begin to initiate from the injured part. Now this rooted branch it can be separated from the mother plant from here, and thus it can be grown as an individual or a new plant. Mainly the fruit crops such as the pomegranate, guava, lemon, oranges, lychee, rubber plants, etc., they are propagated with the help of air layering. Now, the next important method of artificial vegetative propagation is called as the grafting. Now, grafting it is a technique which involves the joining of two plants into one, specifically with the vegetative parts of the plant. Now, in this, there is a combination of plants, or two plants are joined with each other. Out of these two plants, the plant which is rooted or on which the grafting is to be done is called as the stalk, whereas the part which is to be connected or inserted onto the root plant is called as the bud or a sicon. Now, in short, what we can say, the rooted plant is called as the stalk, whereas the part which is to be inserted is called as the sicon. Eventually, what will happen? There will be a union of these two parts, and later on, they will continue as a single plant. Now, this combination provides the root, or the part of the combination which provides the roots is called as the stalk, and the piece which is added to the stalk is called as the sicon. Now usually this technique it is done in case of some of the trees and shrubs, specifically to combine the best characters of the two plants. Okay, then fruit trees they are specifically grafted onto the root stalks for the what we can say, getting good characters or good quality of the fruits. Then the upper end of the stalk, it is usually given a cut, oblique cut, and then the secon, it should be, what we can say, fit into the stalk of the, or the cut given to the stalk plant. Thus there should be a lock and key model, which means that the stalk as well as the secon, they should fit into one another. Once they are properly fixed, then we have to tie it with the help of polythene sheet and thread. Within few weeks, what will happen, the secon, it will produce new leaves, and it will get connected with the stalk. Such method is usually done in case of mango, apple, pears, citrus, guava, roses, rubber plants, etc. Now, based on the type of methods, we can say there are different types of grafting. Usually, there are five types of grafting. First one is the bird grafting, approach grafting. Third is the tongue grafting, wedge grafting, and finally the crown grafting. Let's see them one by one. So the first diagram, it represents the bird grafting. Now you can see this is the plant on which we have to insert the bud of some different plant. So this plant is called as the stalk, and this part which we are going to insert is called as the secon. So this is the front view, and if you see the side view, you can see there is a oblique cut which has been given. And what we have to do, we have to take the bud from the another plant, and we have to insert it in this slit. Okay, now care should be taken that it should be easily fitted and properly fitted into this slit. Once it is fitted, we have to wrap it with the help of polythene sheet, but care should be taken that the bud, it is exposed to the sunlight so that it will be able to grow. So such type of grafting in which a bird is grafted is called as the bird grafting. Now the second type is called as the approach grafting. In approach grafting, two plants, they are approaching each other. Now you can see these are the two plants. On these plants, what you can say, vertical cut has been given to both the plants, so such that the cambium of both the plants, they are exposed. Now both these branches, they are brought closer, and they are tied together with the help of polythene or some other material. Now what will happen, it may take around 2 to 3 months for the proper combination. Both the cambium which are exposed, they will combine with each other, they will unite with each other, and finally after few months, these two plants, now they will not be two plants anymore, they will unite and they will start growing as a single plant. Now after that, what can be done, one of the plants, it can be cut, or one of the stems, it can be cut from the parent plant, and the rest can be grown as a new plant. So that method is called as the approach grafting. The third type of grafting is called as the tongue grafting. Now tongue grafting, it is quite similar to the, what you can say, bird grafting, only here the difference is in the shape of the cut. Now here you can see it is a bit different cut as compared to the bird grafting. So if here a vertical slit has been cut on the root plant, in the secon, opposite cut is to be given, such that both these, they can fit into one another as a lock and key model. Once they are properly fitted, they are to be tied with the help of polythene and strings, and eventually they will grow into one plant. Then the next type is called as the wedge grafting. In case of wedge grafting, the stalk plant is given a vertical cut, whereas the secon, it is given a V-shaped cut which can easily fit into this stalk plant. So here you can see this is the secon with V-shaped cut and the stalk with a vertical cut. Now in this step, this secon, it is fitted into this stalk plant, then it is tied properly, and eventually there will be union of this root and this secon and the stalk, and they will grow into a single plant. So such type of grafting is called as the wedge type of grafting. And finally, the fifth type of grafting is called as the crown grafting. Now in case of crown grafting, many grafts can be inserted simultaneously on the same plant. So here you can see at the edges of the rootstock, many grafts can be inserted. For example, here one graft has been inserted, here second one, similarly here second, third, fourth. Likewise, a crown like structure is developed on the rootstock, and hence this type of grafting is called as the crown grafting. Then the next important method of vegetative reproduction, artificial vegetative reproduction, is called as budding. So this budding, it is also a horticultural technique in which the two parts of a plant, they are joined together or they are combined together so that they can grow as a single plant. Now in this process, the bud, it is taken from one plant and it is grown or budded onto another plant. So such type of propagation or grafting is called as the bud grafting. Now specifically in case of bud grafting, we unite the meristematic portions of the two plants. So meristem, it is the tissue which has the ability to divide continuously, and thus it results into the growth of the plant. So usually while budding, what we do, we unite the meristematic regions or the meristematic tissues of the two plants. Now this budding, it can be of different types, specifically the T budding, inverted budding, and the ring budding. So let's study them in detail. So the first type is called as the T budding. Now this T budding, it is also called as shield budding because of the shape of the bud which is to be inserted, and T budding because it is the cut which is given on the stalk plant is T shaped. Now you can see in the diagram, so this is the plant from which we are going to cut the secon. So here a cut has been given and this part, it is removed, which is nothing but the bud. And now this is the stalk plant on which a T-shaped cut is given. A vertical slit and a horizontal slit cut is given on the root plant. Now we have to carefully remove the flaps of this T-shaped cut wherein we have to insert this bud. Okay, so if you see the shape of this bud, it is shield shaped, and hence this is called as shield budding, whereas the cut which is given on the root stalk, it is T-shaped, and thus it is also called as T budding. Now carefully what we have to do, we have to open these flaps of the T-shaped cut given on the root stalk, and carefully we have to insert this bud into this T-shaped cut. Now once the bud has been inserted, you can see here, here it has been inserted on the rootstock and it has been tied with the help of the polythene sheet. Now when it is tied, care should be taken that the growing point, it should not be covered because it will hamper the growth of the inserted bud. And later on, after few days, what will happen, the plant or the bud, now it will not be a separate part but it will combine with this root stock and it will start growing as one plant. Okay, and finally you can see this is the root stock which has been budded or which has been grafted with the help of the buds. This technique, it is usually used in case of roses where we can grow different color of roses on a single plant. So in that case, what we will have to do, if the rootstock has the red color flowers, and the bud or the seacon which we are taking from some other plant, it has yellow colored flowers. So ultimate result, or the ultimate plant which is going to be produced, it will bear both the red color flowers as well as the yellow colored flowers. So this is a very good technique which is used for the propagation of roses. Then the next method is the inverted budding method. It is very similar, or it is exactly similar to tea budding. The only difference here is that here the T shape is inverted. Okay, now see, this is the T shape but it is inverted. So as the T shape it is inverted, the type of budding is called as inverted budding. Now why this inverted budding is done? So in the areas specifically where the rainfall is very high, in that area this technique is utilized, so that even if the rainfall is very high, due to the inverted position of the bud, the excess water it can drain out, and thus it will be able to not germinate, but it will be able to grow efficiently. Thus this method, as the shape of the cut is inverted T shape, it is called as inverted budding. Rest of the process is same as seen in case of the tea budding. And the third method is called as the ring budding. In this type of budding, a complete ring of bark is removed from the seacon or the bird stick, or from the plant which we want to graft on some other plant. So this is the root stock. Again here also a ring shaped structure is or ring shaped bark has been removed, and the ring shaped bark of this seacon it is placed on this stalk. Once it is placed, it is covered with the help of a polythene sheet, and thus it will eventually grow into a single plant. So why it is called as ring budding? Because a circular strip or a ring of bark, it is generally used as the bud, or is generally grafted on the stalk plant. So this is about the budding, which has three methods: T-shaped budding, inverted budding, and the ring budding. Now let's see some of the important factors about the artificial vegetative propagation. Now this artificial vegetative propagation is a method by which we can produce exactly the copies which are similar to the parent plant. So whatever good characters are present in the parent plants, they will be replicated or they will be duplicated in the new plants, which is a very important aspect of this vegetative propagation. Now the fruit trees, we know, usually they first attain the vegetative growth, and then they go into the reproductive phase. So a fruit tree, it may take around 5 to 6 years to bear flowers, or more than, at least more than 2 years. But in case of the plants which are propagated artificially, the time span of bearing the fruits is shortened, and thus it will help the plant to bear the fruits at a very early stage. And the methods such as cutting, grafting, usually they help the plant to bear the flowers at an early stage. Now again, one of the important benefits of this artificial vegetative propagation is that these plants, they need a very little attention in their early years as compared to the seed plants. So we have to take care of the seed plants, or the plants propagated with the help of seeds. But as compared to the seed plants, the artificially propagated plants, they do not require much attention. Again, many plants, they can be grown from just one parent plant, which is also one of the important features of this artificial vegetative propagation. And finally, we can also get some of the seedless plants by artificial propagation. So many plants, they do not bear seeds, or there are seedless varieties. And for the propagation of such seedless varieties, artificial propagation methods, they can be utilized. Now, along with some advantages, this artificial vegetative propagation, it also has some of the disadvantages. Now, what are the disadvantages? The first disadvantage is that they do not have genetic variation, and thus they lose the vigor gradually. So, as there is no variation in the genes, gradually the vigor or the productivity of these plants, they decrease generation after generation. Then these plants, they are more prone to the diseases, as well as it can also result in the destruction of the entire crop. Then, as many plants are produced at a time, it can also lead to overcrowding, and thus it can result into the lack of nutrients to the plants. Then it can induce overcrowding. As there is no genetic variation, the offsprings or the plants which are produced, these are less adaptable to the environment, so they are not able to adjust to the environment. Then along with this, the parent, if the parent plant it has some disease, the same disease it will also be seen in case of the newly propagated plants. Then the air layered and the cut plants, they generally do not have the strong root system, as the roots they are developed artificially or with the help of some rooting hormones. So the root system it is comparatively uh, not strong, or it is poor in strength. As a result of this, these plants they may collapse at a certain age. So after attaining a certain age, these plants they can collapse. Along with that, the parent plants it will also get burden if there are so many, uh, if the air layering is done at a higher rate. So all these are the disadvantages of artificial vegetative propagation. Now, another important topic of this chapter is the role of growth regulators in horticulture. Now, what are growth regulators? So, these are specific hormones or specific chemicals which are synthesized by the plants in their body, so that some of the metabolic activities are carried out efficiently in the plant body. Now, these growth regulators, naturally they are present in the plant, but in horticulture they can also be applied artificially. Now the growth of we will see the use of growth regulators in horticultural crops. So main use is in the propagation. These growth regulators they can be applied in the form of paste or in the form of a solution. The concentration of these growth regulators it may vary from plant to plant. The method of application can also vary, and the type of with the type of cuttings. Popular growth regulators are the IAA, IBA, and NAA, which are the indole acetic acid, indole butyric acid, and naphthalene acetic acid. Now, uh, these growth regulators in case of propagation can be utilized by two methods. First is the soak method, in which the cuttings they are soaked in 10 to 100 ppm parts per million concentration of the chemicals for around 12 to 24 hours. Then the second method is the quick dip method, in which the cuttings they are dipped in around 1000 to 5000 ppm concentration of the chemicals just for 5 seconds, and immediately they are planted. The second use of growth regulators is in seed germination. So gibberellins, these are the growth regulators which significantly accelerates the seed germination. So soaking the seeds in gibberellins will help the seeds to germinate easily. Such pre-soaking is usually done in case of okra and the sugar beets. The third important role of growth regulator is seen in case of induction of flowering. NAA, that is naphthalene acetic acid, at the rate of 10 to 50 ppm, and 2,4-D at the rate of 6 to 10 ppm, it causes early flowering and flower induction in pineapple, whereas at a rate of 200 to 800 ppm, it can delay flowering in apple, cherries, pears, peaches, plums, etc. The next important role of growth regulators is seen in the sex expression. For example, MH9 malic hydrazide, it can induce male sterility in maize crop. So, the male reproductive structures, they are sterile, or they are not, what you can say, able to produce the spores in case of maize if they are applied MH9 malic hydrazide. Then the application of NAA, IAA, GA, that is gibberellic acid, at a rate of 50 to 100 ppm, it increases the female flowers in case of pumpkin, cucumber, etc. Then the flowering and fruit thinning can also be attained with the help of growth regulators. So many fruit trees, they bear heavy flowering in 1 year and few flowers in the next year. So this can be balanced properly if we use gibberellic acid at the rate of 5 to 10 ppm and NAA at a rate of 5 to 7 ppm, so that the flowers and fruits, they will be balanced each year. Next important use of growth hormones is seen in pre-harvest drop of fruits. So application of NAA at a rate of 10 to 50 ppm, it can reduce the fruit and flower drop in mango, citrus, chilies, etc. So many a times what we see, the flowers, they are lost, or they are dropped before fruiting. So to avoid this, application of NAA at a rate of 10 to 50 ppm can be applied. Then another important role is seen in case of fruit development. In case of fruit development, 50 to 100 ppm of gibberellic acid, especially in grapes, it increases the size of the berries. So the size of the grapes can be increased with the help of gibberellic acids. The next important use is seen in early maturity. So 20 ppm of NAA, it induces early flowering and early maturity by at least 2 months in pineapple. So early flowering and early maturing of pineapples can be seen on application of 20 ppm of NAA. Again, spraying of 200 ppm of NAA, it will reduce the maturity in grapes, which is very important if the grapes are to be exported. Then the next important role is seen in case of early ripening and color development. So dipping of fruits in 20 to 50 ppm of ethanol induces golden yellow color to fruits such as mango, banana, papaya, and it also induces early maturity. So many a times we see in the market, these specifically the banana fruits, they are dipped into ethylene or ethanol, so that they are they are ripened easily or early. Then another important use is in delayed maturity. Dipping of fruits in 24D, 245T, or MH40, it extends the storage life of the fruit, so that the fruits, they can be stored for a longer period, or the shelf life of the fruits, it can be increased. Then the sprouting of buds is also affected due to the application of growth hormones such as the ethyl, gibberellic acids, urea, IBA, and cytokinins. The spray of all these growth hormones, it induces the sproutings of the birds, so it helps the birds to sprout easily. And finally, the important use is seen in the breaking of dormancy. The growth hormones such as gibberellic acids, ethyl, naphthalene acid, all these, they are used to break the dormancy in the seeds as well as in the birds. So as we have discussed earlier, the seeds, they uh, go into the resting phase, which is called as the dormancy. And if we want to break this dormancy or the resting phase, the growth hormones such as gibberellic acids, ethyl, etc., they can be applied so that the seeds, they will break the dormancy. So with this, we come to the end of this chapter. I hope the lecture, it was beneficial and informative. Thank you.